For nearly 5 decades, one family has been at the center of the Lakers, the Buss family. Jerry Buss bought the team in 1979. His family carried that ownership through the Showtime era, the Kobe era, and the LeBron era. But now, that era may be ending, because in roughly 18 months, almost everything about the Lakers has changed. Anthony Davis was replaced by Luka Dončić. Mark Walter replaced the Buss family as controlling owner. LeBron James left Los Angeles. And now, the Buss family has agreed to sell its remaining 17.8% stake in the team, a move that, if completed, would end nearly 5 decades of Buss family ownership of the Lakers.
The sale still needs NBA approval.
And the family transaction itself is now being contested by Jimmy Buffett. The Lakers aren't just changing
Owners.
They're changing eras. And that's important to understand before we ask why Mark Walter is selling the Lakers so soon. Because the Lakers he bought were not the Lakers he sold. February 2025, the Lakers made one of the biggest decisions in recent franchise history. They traded Anthony Davis to Dallas for Luka Dončić. That wasn't just another NBA trade. It changed the Lakers' timeline. The Lakers had acquired a 26-year-old superstar who could potentially anchor the franchise for the next decade. And here's the key point for this ownership story. The Luka trade happened before Mark Walter became the Lakers' NBA-approved controlling owner. Walter would inherit a franchise that had already made its biggest basketball decision of the new era. Luka was already in Los Angeles. The future was already beginning to take shape. Mark Walter buys in. The Buss family agreed to sell controlling interest in the Lakers to Mark Walter at a reported $10 billion valuation. It was the biggest valuation ever reported for a professional sports franchise at the time. On October 30, 2025, NBA Board of Governors unanimously approved the sale. The Buss family retained a minority interest, and Jeanie Buss remained the Lakers' governor. So Walter officially took control at a very unusual moment. He wasn't starting a new Lakers era from scratch. He was stepping into one that was already underway. Luka had arrived, and the Lakers were moving toward life after LeBron. The transition becomes real. At first, the Lakers were still living in two eras at once. There was LeBron James, and there was Luka Dončić. One represented the final chapter of the previous era. The other represented what could become the next one. Walter inherited that tension. Then, in 2026, the transition became complete. July 2026. The LeBron era ends. On June 30th, LeBron James told the Lakers he would not return for the 2026-27 season. A few weeks later, he chose Philadelphia. LeBron's 8-year Lakers run was officially over, a period that included the 2020 championship and one of the most significant chapters in modern Lakers history. And suddenly, the Lakers' future was much clearer. The team had gone from LeBron James and Anthony Davis to Luka Dončić as the centerpiece of the next era. But notice the timing. The Lakers acquired Luka before Walter became the controlling owner. LeBron left after Walter took control, so Walter didn't arrive at the beginning of the transition. He arrived in the middle of it. August 2026, ownership changes again. And now comes the part that makes this story extraordinary. In August 2026, Mark Walter agreed to sell his controlling interest to a group led by Bob Iger and Joshua Kushner for a reported $12.5 billion. The transaction would establish the highest valuation ever reported for an American professional sports team. But there is an important detail. The deal still requires NBA approval. And there's been another development. The Buss family has now agreed to sell its remaining 17.8% stake to Iger and Kushner as well. If approved, that would end the Buss family's formal ownership relationship with the Lakers after nearly 5 decades. So
This isn't simply Mark
Walter's selling the Lakers. It's potentially the end of the entire Buss ownership era. And it is happening at almost the exact moment the Lakers are entering their Luka era. Look at the timeline. Put those events together. February 2025. Luka Dončić arrives in Los Angeles. June 2025. The Buss family agrees to sell controlling interest to Mark Walter at a reported $10 billion valuation. October 2025. The NBA approves Walter's ownership. July 2026. LeBron joins the Philadelphia 76ers. August 2026. Walter agrees to sell his controlling interest to Bob Iger and Joshua Kushner for a reported $12.5 billion. August 2026. The Buss family agrees to sell its remaining 17.8% stake as well. That's an extraordinary amount of change, all in roughly 18 months. But timing is not causation. Now, we need to be careful. The timeline is remarkable, but the timeline does not tell us why these events happened. We cannot say Walter sold because LeBron left. We cannot say the Luka trade caused the ownership sale. And we cannot say the federal investigation caused Walter to sell. Those are possibilities that have been discussed. They are not established facts. What we can say is much simpler. The Lakers changed dramatically during Walter's brief period of control. And that creates a much more interesting question. What did Walter actually buy? Because think about what happened. Walter agreed to buy the Lakers when LeBron there. Anthony Davis had already been traded. Luka had just arrived. The Buss family still owned a minority stake, and the franchise was beginning a new basketball era. Now, just over a year later, Walter is selling a Lakers organization that looks very different. LeBron is gone. Luka
is the clear centerpiece.
The Buss family is preparing to leave entirely, and the reported valuation has risen from $10 billion to $12.5 billion. That's the real transformation. So what changed? Almost everything. The star at the center of the franchise changed. The ownership changed. The Buss family's role is disappearing, and the financial value of the franchise has risen dramatically. But there's one thing we still haven't answered. Why is the Lakers' future worth $12.5 billion? Because if Walter bought the Lakers for $10 billion,
And
someone is now willing to pay $12.5 billion, then we need to understand what that buyer believes the workers are worth, not just today, but in the future. That's where this ownership story stops being just about Mark Walter. It starts becoming a story about the economics of the Lakers. Because before we can understand why Walter agreed to sell, we need to understand why someone was willing to pay $12.5 billion